Good afternoon, California. My name is Neil Fornaciari, and welcome to the California Citizens Redistricting Commission's Redistricting Basics presentation. We are here today as part of the Public Input Design Committee meeting, and we will begin the meeting with this Redistricting Basics presentation. First, I will call the meeting to order and ask Director Hernandez to call the roll.
Yes, good afternoon. Commissioner Ahmad. Commissioner Akutagawa.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Fernandez. Commissioner Fornaciari.
Here.
Commissioner Sinai. And Commissioner Turner.
Here.
Since we don't have a quorum of the committee at this point, we will begin the meeting as a subcommittee of the whole. I am one of the 14 commissioners selected to draw the new electoral district lines following the 2020 census. I'm joined by two of my fellow commissioners, Commissioners Turner and Akutagawa. Before we begin the formal presentation, I want to share a bit about myself, and then I'll ask my fellow commissioners to share as well. So again, my name is Neil Fornaciari. I'm a native Californian. I was born in Livermore and grew up in Pleasanton. For the past 30 years, I've lived in Tracy with my wife, Kate. We have one son, Theodore, and a dog named Coach. I spent 27 years working at Sandia National Laboratories in Livermore. First half of that, I did research and development in various national security related topic areas. Second half, I was in management. I retired in 2017. After I retired, did a lot of work around the house, did some woodworking, finished restoring a classic car. In 2018, I was fortunate enough to have been chosen to be the foreperson for the San Joaquin County Civil Grand Jury, and that was a year-long assignment. When I finished that up, I was looking, around for another way I could contribute. And I heard an ad for the Redistricting Commission on the radio. And I thought that sounded like a really interesting opportunity, a great idea to give the citizens the opportunity to draw the lines. The real driver for me was looking back after the 2000 census. And basically the congressional districts in California were drawn by the congresspersons themselves. And they drew the districts to ensure that they would get reelected in perpetuity. And my district wound up being part of San Joaquin County, snaked through the hills into eastern Alameda and southern Contra Costa, and then snaked through some more hills down to southern Santa Clara County. And the people in those various areas of the district really didn't have anything in common. It was just drawn, so that the representative could continue to get reelected. And, I didn't think that was fair. So that's why I signed up for this commission. So I'll turn it over to Commissioner Turner to tell you a little bit about herself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Commissioner Fornaciari. I'm Commissioner Trina Turner and just excited to be able to present to you today. So I too am a Californian all my life. I spent my early years in the Bay Area and only 26 years ago moved to the amazing Central Valley. I am married. I have a husband of 42 years. I have 2 adult children and 7 beautiful grandbabies. California, the Central Valley certainly is my home and a place that I'm proud to be a part of. I spent 25 years working in the telephone company, telecommunications industry, and had an opportunity to travel and work in many different places throughout California. After my time of 25 years there, I, as an ordained elder, spent time working with my church. My husband and I have 12 churches. We had a church plant in Stockton, California, and we now have 12 churches. That was just 26 years ago. So I'm excited about how that growth is occurring. While working in ministry, I was introduced to social justice and became a part of PICO National, which is now Faith in Action National, and then the Pico, California entity. So I do social justice work. I'm a executive director for Faith in the Valley. I have an opportunity to work with amazing individuals, a staff that spans from Kern County, primarily in Bakersfield. We go through Fresno, Merced, Stanislaus, and then to the San Joaquin County. So I'm really familiar with the Central Valley and have quite a few families that I hold dear in my heart. The commission coming to learn about redistricting, this was something that was very new, very different for me. Even in the work that I was doing, I did not know an awful lot about redistricting initially. And I love to share that story. It's not anything that I'm embarrassed about because I want Californians everywhere to know that this is a process that you can grasp and one that you should indeed, once you hear about it, ensure that you take a part of redistricting. I've learned a lot. We've had extensive training. I've learned a lot from my fellow commissioners. I've learned how to connect the important work of the independent redistricting that we do, even to the work that I'm doing locally. And so to that end, I would just say, again, I am a proud Californian. I'm extremely grateful to be a part of this commission and excited to present to you today. So at this point, I'd like to introduce another one of our co-workers, one of the other commissioners, Commissioner Akutagawa.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Turner and Commissioner Fornaciari. So my name is Linda Akutagawa, and I am also a native-born Californian, born and raised here in Southern California specifically. Grew up in the East San Gabriel Valley. And then after I got married, now 21 years ago, we just celebrated our 21st anniversary on tax day. I've been living in Orange County, specifically Huntington Beach. And so went from a valley to a coastal part of California. So it's been an interesting and actually very much welcome change from a temperature perspective. And so right now what I do is I run a nonprofit organization called LEAP, and I'm the president and CEO. I've been working there for now close to 30 years, which I never would have imagined. And the focus of the work that I do is leadership development that is really to encourage, empower, and inspire Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to step into leadership roles. And I'll just briefly say that part of the reason why this serving on the commission was of interest to me is one, I heard about the opportunity through a community partner, and I started thinking about, I've been teaching and I've been encouraging just folks from the community to step up. And I thought, this was an opportunity for me to put my money where my mouth is and to be able to do something that I thought would enable me to give back to the people of California in a meaningful way. And so I applied, and lo and behold, here I am, one of the 14 commissioners. And I guess I want to tell a little bit about the work that we've been doing as a commission. Maybe I should also, I realized that I forgot to mention a few other things about myself. So I mentioned that I'm married, don't have any kids, have lots of nephews and nieces, and I also have 2 dogs that are essentially my children. I'm one of those fur parents that refer to their pets as their children. They are. I've had a chance to, as I said, I live in Orange County right now, but I work in downtown LA. I used to work in San Diego. I have half of my family and my husband's family live in Northern California. So making that drive, if any of you make the drive from Northern California to Southern California or vice versa, I am very familiar with places along the way on the 5 and, where we stop for our dogs and we just stop for breaks. And so, going through the kind of parts of California that are very agricultural. Sometimes we mix it up a bit and we come down the coast. We were fortunate enough to be able to drive down through the one and through Big Sur after it opened up. And so, it really makes me appreciate just how diverse California is. Just having, both in terms of my personal experiences, but also having family throughout the state. And it really just does inspire me to really think about how can we ensure that, knowing how diverse our state is, how can we ensure that, the people who live in all of these different areas throughout California have the kind of representation that really reflects their particular interests. And I will say, I think like Commissioner Turner, I'm very new to redistricting. I did not know a lot about redistricting despite the work that I did. Someone told me after I got onto the commission that it is an underappreciated kind of art, and I have come to agree very much with it. But I do want to say, to all of you who are listening, if you don't know much about it, it's okay. That's part of the reason why we're here. But more importantly, I realize too, as much as I would assume that we all know what it is, I think conceptually we know what it is. But let's give ourselves a break and give ourselves some grace, because one of the things that I realize is that this is only the second time that as Californians, we are engaging in this process of redistricting in a way that really is calling on all of us as Californians to give input. And that's kind of exciting to me, because that's what I've realized, that this is part of a process, and we're looking for you to help us tell us, what is important to you in terms of your communities of interest. And the more we know, the better we can draw maps that really reflect what you are looking for, and to ensure that you have representation that really reflects, what your particular communities are about. And I'm learning this, and it's, I'll be honest, it's super exciting now. I mean, it was exciting before, but I think I'm really geeking out on this. And so, I just want to say, thank you to all of you who are joining us, watching us. And I want, to encourage you to come along on this kind of interesting and really fun, groundbreaking journey that we're on. So thank you to you all. Neil, I'm going to turn this back over to you.
Thanks, Trina and Linda. That was great. I think you both really captured a lot of what we're all going through now, and what we're all feeling, and the challenges that we're facing, but the fun we're having. So thank you. So with that, we'll jump on into our presentation after our in a second. So we'll be going over 3 things in this presentation: what the commission is, what we do, and why it matters. At the end, there'll be Q&A. The phone number for the questions and answers is 877-853-5247. After calling that number, you'll punch in the meeting ID 922-1794-2573. The number and the ID should also be in the live feed, and we'll read that again when we're ready for Q&A. We're also going to record this presentation and post it on our website for your friends and neighbors who didn't get a chance to join us live. They'll be able to watch it and listen to the questions and answers. So with that, I am going to kick off the presentation. So again, what we're going to talk about today is who the commission is, what we do, and how you can get involved in the process. So next slide. So yeah, Marcy, go ahead. Oh, oops, lost the slides. They'll be back. This is our first time doing this, so we're working out the bugs. Oops. Yeah, there we go. Right there. Perfect. All right. So what is redistricting? Well, simply put, redistricting is defined as drawing new boundaries that determine which Californians are represented by each electoral district. So why we redraw district lines? You might be wondering why we have to redraw district lines every 10 years. It is important to note that a lot changes in 10 years. Communities change, the priorities, the interests, the goals of communities, the makeup of those communities. People change, people are born, people die, people move into and out of California, but they also move within California. I mean, example that we have going on right now with COVID, there are a number of people moving out of the cities into more rural areas. These changes cause communities to grow and shrink. And areas that were once roughly equal in population become unequal. So these are some of the reasons why districts need to be redrawn. As communities change, the districts need to be updated to reflect those changes. So your voice. One of the greatest powers that the people of California have is to elect their own representatives to conduct the business of their government. How the district boundaries are configured can make the difference between empowering and maximizing voters' voices or minimizing and muting those voices. In most other states, politicians redraw districts and often end up drawing safe districts for themselves that allow those politicians to stay in office. Redistricting has been used at times to exclude communities from political power. By fully participating in and monitoring the upcoming redistricting process, more communities may have the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. Speaking up about your community is critical in keeping your community whole. This ensures that your voice is heard by your elected leaders when making decisions such as funding for your child's education or determining your tax rates. Your input is valuable in shaping these new political boundaries. How redistricting affects you. We thought it would be beneficial for us to break down how redistricting affects you directly. Power to the people. The Voters First Act was historic in California. It transferred the power of drawing district maps away from politicians and gave it to the people. Champion your issues. Having the opportunity to elect representatives that champion your issues is important in a state like California, where issues can vary drastically from one region to the next. For instance, Northern California might champion environmental and economic issues, while Central California might champion water and agricultural issues, and Southern California might champion transportation and housing issues. Funding priorities. Tied to the issues of electing representatives that champion your concerns, you might want to elect representatives that have your financial interest at heart. When it comes time to build the budget, you want a representative fighting to ensure that your community gets financial resources it deserves for various services such as education, water, and fire protection. Community boundaries. The redistricting process is all about drawing lines and determining which communities get grouped into districts. Your input in this process is essential to help the commissioners understand where your community begins and ends. Redistricting in California is one of the few civic activities that any California can participate in by providing input that ultimately impacts laws and regulations, tax structure, how funding is distributed, and which services are provided. So, road to fair representation. The U.S. Constitution requires that every American receive as close to equal representation as possible. As populations of districts change over time, it can leave some districts overrepresented and others underrepresented. Redistricting evens out the population between districts. Every 10 years, after the federal government publishes updated census information, California must redraw the boundaries of its congressional, state senate, state assembly, and state board of equalization districts so that these districts correctly reflect the state's population. At the federal level, reapportionment takes place to reallocate U.S. House seats among the states. This too is done after each national census to ensure that the number of seats held by each state is in proportion to the size of their population. California currently has 53 House seats. That may change after we get the updated census numbers. Historically, politicians have drawn maps that allowed them to choose their voters rather than enabling the voters to choose their representatives. This former system undermined the concept of fair representation, which is to give people the power to choose their representatives. So why redistricting matters? We've talked why independent redistricting matters, sorry. We have talked about how redistricting affects you, and now we will explain why independent redistricting matters. Democracy depends on voters having the opportunity to choose their representatives. When elected officials redraw the lines of their own districts, they choose their voters. This slide highlights key terms in redistricting to help you understand why it's important to delegate the power of redistricting to the people. Gerrymandering happens when the election district boundaries are drawn in a way that gives a particular set of people, like a political party or racial group, an unfair political advantage over another. This graph shows how a jurisdiction with 50 people, 60% orange and 40% purple, 5 districts can be drawn in multiple ways. The first 2 examples show ways to draw district lines in a fair manner, where the districts are drawn to reflect the population proportionality. The next 2 examples on the far right show ways to draw district maps in a manner that does not reflect the population fairly, which is referred to as gerrymandering. This is why independent commissions, like California's commission, were created to remove the politics from the process and focus on the people. At this point, I'll turn it over to Commissioner Turner to take over. I think you're still muted. Christian, can you unmute Commissioner Turner?
Thank you. All right, Christian to the rescue. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Neil, for the first part of that. That is exactly what I needed help with, was to get unmuted. Sometimes technology is our best friend, and on occasion, it has a few tricks and surprises for us. Thank you. So what I'd like to talk to us now is about our line drawing criteria. The commission must follow these criteria in this order when drawing district maps. Number 1, districts must be of nearly equal population to comply with the United States Constitution. Number 2, districts must comply with the Voting Rights Act to ensure that minorities have a fair opportunity to elect representatives of their choice. Number 3, districts must be drawn contiguously so that all parts of the district are connected to each other. Number 4, districts must minimize the division of cities, counties, neighborhoods, and communities of interest to the extent possible. Next, districts should be geographically compact such that nearby areas of population are not bypassed for more distant populations. This requirement refers to density and not to shape. And then number 6, where practicable, each Senate district should be comprised of 2 complete and adjacent assembly districts. Board of Equalization districts should be comprised of 10 complete and adjacent state Senate districts. In addition, the place of residence of any incumbent or political candidate may not be considered in the creation of a map, and districts may not be drawn for the purpose of favoring or discriminating against an incumbent, political candidate, or political party. Now, there are different redistricting efforts I'd like to talk to you about. We are one of many redistricting efforts occurring in California. The Commission is redrawing districts for state offices, while counties, cities, school districts, water districts, and community college districts are also redrawing their districts at the same time. So we wanted to bring this to your attention because different efforts are happening simultaneously, and it can be confusing. Aside from being involved in the state redistricting process, we encourage you to also be involved in your local redistricting efforts. So let's talk about the history. So prior to 2010, legislators in California drew the lines. And if the legislature failed to properly draw the lines, then the court drew the lines. In 2008, California voters passed Proposition 11, the Voters First Act, authorizing the creation of an independent commission to draw new district lines for the state Senate, State Assembly, and Board of Equalization. In 2010, Proposition 20 or Prop 20, the Voters First Act for Congress added in the responsibility of drawing congressional districts to the commission. So our goal as a commission is to spread the word that the people's role did not end with being counted in the census, and to collect valuable community input to assist us in the process as we draw new districts. The 2010 Redistricting Commission was California's first independent commission. The 2020 Redistricting Commission, we're building upon their work, and we will leave behind detailed documents to assist the 2030 Commission when they perform their duties. Other states with independent commissions include Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Michigan, Montana, and Washington. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the commissioner selection and how we got here. So the commissioners, we all went through a rigorous application process that attracted over 20,000 applicants in 2019. So after an initial review, over 2,000 individuals completed a supplemental application. After a very thorough and public review, 120 applicants, 40 Democrats, 40 Republicans, 40 others, were invited to interview, from which 60, 20 Democrats, 20 Republicans, 20 other, were then chosen to be presented to the legislature. The California legislature were allowed to remove no more than 24 candidates, 8 from each pool, from consideration, which left a total of 36. The first 8 members, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, 2 others, were selected through a public drawing in July 2020. And then the final 6 members, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 2 others, were then carefully selected by the first 8 commissioners in August 2020, taking into consideration several things, ensuring that we included a balance for political party, geography, race, gender, and expertise. So I'd like for you to meet your 2020 commission. We are 14 members. This commission is made up of 5 Republicans, 5 Democrats, and 4 members that are not affiliated with either of those 2 parties. And so you see the names here. There's Commissioner Mott, no party preference, Commissioner Akutagawa, you've met here, Commissioner Anderson, Commissioners Fernandez, Fornaciari, you've met, Commissioner Kennedy, Commissioner Lamons, Commissioner Sadwani, Commissioner Sinai, Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Toledo, myself, and Commissioner Vasquez and Commissioner Yee. The commissioners are diverse in geography, as you can see. They are as diverse in geography as they are in opinions and in expertise. There are 7 from Northern California, 7 from Southern California. We have 8 women, 6 men, and we range in age from the 30s to the 60s. There are NGO leaders, engineers, pastors, law enforcement officers, political scientists. We have a lawyer, and many of us are public servants. And we invite you to join us at one of our commission meetings. They are currently all held online due to COVID-19, and there are instructions and a link for attending our online meetings available to you on our website. There are a couple of duties that we must adhere to and what we have committed ourselves to. So after the education sessions, such as the one we're going through now, we as a commission will hold public input meetings and will accept community input and public testimony to help us as we draw the new electoral maps. Ultimately, this commission will draw maps for 4 different government bodies. For Congress, 53 about district lines, maps we will draw. State Senate, 40, State Assembly, 80, and the Board of Equalization, 4. So we've used an example here from Sacramento just to demonstrate for you what different maps could look like for each district type. From February to May, we are conducting these redistricting basic presentations to educate the public about the redistricting process. So we've divided the state into 11 outreach zones, A through K, to better manage our outreach efforts and to build relationships with community groups. This commission is eager to engage with all communities. We are more than happy to set up a redistricting basics presentation with any group to have that request one. And we plan to have this presentation available for you in video form in case groups actually would prefer that option. I'd like to now hand it over to Commissioner Akutagawa.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner Turner.
You're welcome.
So, communities of interest. When drawing maps, we have to be mindful of communities of interest. We can obtain the city and county information, but we need the communities of interest information from you, Californians. Communities of interest are defined as a concentrated population which shares common social and economic interests that should be included within a single district for the purposes of its effective and fair representation. So examples could include areas in which the people sharing similar living standards or have similar cultures or use the same transportation facilities, have similar work opportunities, or have access to the same media. In my case, as a dog owner, I'm particularly interested in parks and other places where I can take my pets. People can belong to multiple communities of interest. Keep in mind that a community of interest is not the same as a district, but communities of interest are key building blocks of districts. Some ways to describe your communities: geographic, could be like, centering around waterways, rural or urban or mountain communities. Boundaries, it could be boundaries of your cities, your towns, your counties, or even your schools, whether it's an elementary school or it's a community college or a university. A third way could be things that you have in common. I mentioned as a pet owner. I also work in downtown LA, which is in the Little Tokyo area of downtown LA. And so that is something that I have in common with all of the neighbors and businesses in that particular area of downtown LA. Okay, defining your communities. Communities of interest can be described by creating maps and telling us about your community. While there are no clear rules on how to define a community of interest, the following are the basic elements to help you define your community. One, oral testimony. Personal stories are so powerful. Share examples of the things that members of your community have in common and what makes you or your community unique. So imagine describing your community to a visitor that's from out of town. Does your neighborhood share certain celebrations or traditions, like street festivals or parades? Are there important places where your community gathers, like parks or community centers? What is the history of how your community came together? This can be done either at a commission meeting or at a public input hearing. Written testimony. A written testimony can be used to tell your community's story. Tell us about what connects the people and why it's important that they be kept together during redistricting. Whenever possible, include statistics to support your testimonies, including data on ethnicity, religious groups, education levels, graduation rates, median household income, poverty level, access to technology like broadband access, home ownership rates, language isolation or language accessibility, voter registration rates, etc. Consider using reliable sources such as the Census Bureau for data. Another way to define your community is community issues. So communities often get involved in redistricting because they feel that their issues have not been adequately addressed by their elected representatives. Highlight community issues in personal stories and the written narratives can help demonstrate the importance of having elected officials who understand and respond to community needs. Has your community come together to advocate for important services like better schools or roads or health centers in your neighborhood? Have you worked for more recognition or support for your community, like having holidays recognized or historical events commemorated, or perhaps maybe because you're living in a particular area that is subject to natural kind of disasters like fire. Boundary maps is another way to define and describe your communities. You can create a map of your neighborhood or area, mark the street names and significant locations. You can include significant landmarks and or gathering places, including social service agencies, community centers, shopping districts, schools, and religious places. It may be helpful to have or create a name for your community area. There may already be one, but you could also create one for your particular community of interest or community area as well, to be a reminder about what makes your community unique. You can use electronic means or you can use paper means. So we have what's called the Communities of Interest tool that is electronic and online, or we will also have a paper Communities of Interest tool in which you can draw your map and describe your community of interest to us. Participating in the process. Your input is vital to the success of the commission. We've talked about this, but I think it bears repeating. You know, again, we want to hear from you. What you can tell us about your community of interest is really important in the ability for us, the commission, to be able to draw great maps, successful maps. And we've identified the ways in which you can participate in 3 very simple steps. Number 1, describe your community. Tell us about your community. What are your shared interests? What brings you together? What is important to your community? Are there nearby areas that you want to be in the district with? Do you want to be with other areas to the north, to the south, to the east, or to the west of you? What are nearby areas that you don't want to be in a district with? Why? Because maybe you don't feel like you share something in common. Maybe you feel like you share something more in common with another county, another city, another community of interest that is in a different direction where your current district is in. Number 2, draw your community on a map. Let me tell you, using the electronic tool is actually much easier than you think, and it's not quite as daunting as what you might imagine. And 3, send your testimony directly to the commission. And all of this can be done using the online Communities of Interest tool that allows you to describe, draw, and send your input directly to the commission by visiting this website, drawmycacommunity.org. Again, drawmycacommunity.org. Okay, so ways in which you could provide public input. We just described one way, describe, draw, and send, but you can also provide public input in other ways. So Communities of Interest tool, that is one way. You can also visit our website at wedrawthelinesca.org. wedrawthelinesca.org. You can also email us, you can phone us, or you could send us postal mail through the U.S. Postal Service. Additionally, the Communities of Interest tool is also available in various languages: Spanish, Simplified Chinese, Traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Armenian, Farsi, Arabic, Russian, Japanese, Punjabi, and Khmer. And I'm mentioning that because language access is very important to the commissioners. We have taken several steps to ensure that more Californians will be able to participate in the process. Part of the ways in which we're doing that is by translating materials. We will have our fact sheet, our flyer, our FAQs, and redistricting basics presentation, the one that you're watching now, available in English, Spanish, Simplified and Traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Korean, Armenian, Farsi, Arabic, Russian, Japanese, Punjabi, and Khmer. We may also provide interpretation services for the public comment sections of the CRC business meetings if provided within 5 days advance notice. Written public input can also be sent to the Citizens Redistricting Commission in any format and language, and it will be translated into English. If you need an interpreter providing input during a meeting, we ask that you notify the Commission at least 5 business days in advance prior to a meeting to request interpreter services. The Commission will attempt to contract with an interpreter in the requested language. I also want to add that for the Communities of Interest tool, we'll also be adding Hmong and Thai as well to the Communities of Interest. Now, I want to also just speak about timing. So the California Supreme Court ruling is something that has happened as a result of COVID-19. We know that COVID-19 has delayed many things, including our ability to access census data to help us draw district maps. So on February 12th, 2021, the Census Bureau announced that it would deliver, actually it would be February 12th, 2020, the Census Bureau announced that it would deliver redistricting data to all states by September 30th, 2021. And in February, the Census Bureau announced it would provide the census data in a legacy format in late August. So any delay after July 31st in the state receiving the census data means that the Commission's final maps would be due after December 15th. We are working with the legislature and others to minimize the impact of the delay on the 2022 elections. Timeline. The U.S. Census Bureau continues to update us about the expected availability of the census data. We will adjust our timeline as needed. Right now, you could see from February to May 2021, which is where we are right now, we are in the process of giving education presentations like the California Redistricting Basics that we're doing now. From June to August 2021, we expect that we will be engaging in public input meetings to collect communities of interest input. From August 15th to August 30th, 2021, we expect the census data to be received by the state. And by September 30th through October 31st, we expect that we will have census data that will be used by the Commission for the purposes of redistricting. From October through December 2021, public input meetings and line drawing sessions will be continuing. So these are the pre-district maps. From November through December 2021, draft district maps will be released. And from December 2021 through January 2022, public input meetings and line drawing sessions will be conducted. And then from December 2021 through February 22, district maps will be released. And from December 2021 through February 2022, final district maps will be sent and submitted to the Secretary of State. Lastly, I just want to remind you that you can contact us because we want to engage you, the public, in the redistricting process. So as a result, we are conducting these educational presentations like today prior to going out for public input. To request an education session, please contact the Commission by emailing Patricia Vasquez Topete at crc.ca.gov. And please follow us on social media at We Draw the Lines California. Actually, let me correct the contact person. Please contact Marcy Kaplan, marcy.kaplan@crc.ca.gov. And again, you could visit us also at our website, wedrawthelinesca.gov. And with that, thank you, and I'm going to turn this back to Commissioner Fornaciari.
Well, Lyndon, Trina, thank you. Really, really well done. Thank you so much for that. At this point, we would like to move into our question and answer portion of the presentation. So I will turn it over to Katie to read the instructions and open up the phone lines.
Yes, gladly. Here we are. In order to maximize transparency and public participation in our process, the commissioners will be taking public comment by phone. To call in, dial the telephone number provided on the live stream feed. It is 877-853-5247. When prompted to enter the meeting ID number provided on the live stream feed, it is 992-1794-2573 for this meeting. When prompted to enter a participant ID, simply press the pound key. Once you have dialed in, you will be placed in a queue. To indicate you wish to comment, please press star 9. This will raise your hand for the moderator. When it is your turn to speak, you will hear a message that says the host would like you to talk and to press star 6 to speak. If you would like to give your name, please state and spell it for the record. You are not required to provide your name to give public comment. Please make sure to mute your computer or live stream audio to prevent any feedback or distortion during your call. Once you are waiting in the queue, be alert for when it is your turn to speak. And again, please turn down the live stream volume. And I do have quite a list of callers in the queue. I have one person with their hand raised. So I would like to just remind everyone in the queue if they could press star 9 to raise their hand indicating they wish to talk. And then I will,
Katie?
Yes.
Before we go to the callers, I just have a couple of things, if that's okay.
The person may click through. I did click a button.
Okay.
But
right.
We can ask them to hold on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple of things while we wait for the live stream to catch up. On April 26th at 5 p.m., the Commission will host a redistricting basics presentation and Q&A in Spanish. Commissioners Fernandez, Toledo, and Kennedy will be presenting. Speaking of language access, we're excited to announce that our flyer, fact sheet, and frequently asked questions have been translated into 12 languages and are now posted to the website. So that's good news. And okay, so Katie, yeah, let's go ahead and invite callers in.
Okay, will do.
Oh, and we're going to rotate answering questions. So I'll take the first one, then we'll rotate to Commissioner Turner, then to Commissioner Akutagawa. Give everyone a chance. Well, in the meantime, I just a comment about the schedule. At this point, the schedule is somewhat up in the air. We do expect the legacy data from the census at this point, the week of August 16th. And based on that, you know, it's likely our final maps will be due in late December. You know, but we have a balancing act that we have to manage with regard to the elections that follow, the preliminary elections or the primary elections, and so, you know, we're trying to balance the time that we have to draw the maps to ensure that we get adequate public input prior drawing the maps, adequate time for folks to understand the census data and what it all means, and provide input during the map drawing phase.
Sorry to interrupt, Chair.
And to revise the maps. So yeah, go ahead, Christian.
As a reminder to our callers, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please press *9 to raise your hand. Go ahead, caller. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you, commissioners, for your service to our great state of California. We are all truly blessed. Question, how will the redistricting impact the 2022 elections for congressional seats? Because looking at the timeline, looks like, you know, there are certain districts now that candidates are going to look at running for. Will that change, or is this something that won't be implemented until the next election cycle? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. So a couple of things to answer, to talk about with regard to congressional seats. You know, the thinking is that California may lose 1 or 2 congressional seats. And so, you know, when the redistricting process takes place, obviously there'll be one or more fewer opportunities for folks to be elected to Congress. As far as the election process goes, so right now, you know, we're working with the Secretary of State, the registrars of voters, and the legislature to really understand what the process is and the timeline necessary if you work backwards from the election in June to all the processes that need to take place to allow, for instance, candidates to apply, the signature in lieu period, and all of those things, so that we can understand when having our maps done, how having our maps done affects that timeline. So we don't have the answers to that right now, but we're looking at that. And you know, hopefully we'll come up with a schedule soon that, you know, so everyone that's involved in the process will understand what our schedule looks like so they can work their process. But you know, it seems at this point that while it's all going to be rushed, that it should work out okay. I don't know if Commissioners Turner or Akutagawa have anything they want to add.
No, I don't have anything to add. Thank you, Commissioner Fornaciari. I think you spoke a little bit to it when you talked about the balancing that will need to take place. And so we'll all, of course, put our best efforts in it, but it will be indeed a balancing act to ensure that we're able to conduct our business effectively and efficiently. And then we recognize there are others that's relying on the work that we do as well to get their work done.
So thank you for that call. Next caller. And Commissioner Turner. I guess
Caller,
you'll
you
take
have the
this one.
floor.
Hi, my name is Mary Carter, MaryCarter, and I'm asking about the help that we had 10 years ago with mapping. We were able to use the Berkeley Law Center. Down here, we had it available in LA and San Diego counties. Are we going to have that kind of help with mapping again? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Carter. And as I understand it, you're referencing 2010 cycle. There was some help or assistance that's given from the Berkeley Law Center. I don't, commissioners, know about the help that was received before. I know we do have tools that are available now that was not available last cycle through our community of interest tool. But for actual mapping, we have line drawers that we've just hired on. So if either of you know anything more about what was done in 2010, perhaps that would be good to add in.
Yes.
Perhaps I could just really quickly weigh in on that. I think you may be talking about the redistricting access centers that the 2010 commission did have. That was also as part of the, I think, the assistance on the mapping. Because of COVID right now, we're not going to have it available, but the statewide database, which actually manage those redistricting access centers, they are planning for it. I think depending on what each county's regulations are around, opening and having all that. But right now, all of the help is going to be available via phone or through the computer if you're doing like a chat. That's where right now everybody is being directed to in terms of getting that help in submitting, like, your communities of interest mapping input.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
The floor is yours.
Hello.
Hello?
I'm calling from the Bay Area, and I was wondering, how do we find out who our representative is in our particular area?
So are you asking in terms of who the liaison from the commission is for the Bay Area zone that you're in?
Both, because I noticed that this was such a intricately designed process that I would tend to not know where whose area overlaps over the next commissioner rep. So where could we get that information?
Well, great starting place is actually on the Citizens Commission, Redistricting Commission website. I should have this memorized, but it is
We draw the lines, ca.org.
Thank you. We draw the line, ca.org.
Okay. I think, okay. And one more question. Will there be local outreach so that those people who feel too scared to do the computer thing, although I'm going to try to do it on the computer myself, will there be that type of outreach where you bring in these people that are really have no idea what's happening, and including myself, because this is really my first time that I've actually paid attention to the maps, and I was very surprised and learned so much about being four different types of maps for different types of representation of our area. So I'm really excited. I was elected as a school board member, and I paid attention to that because we shifted over to district elections from at large just this last cycle. So I'm keenly aware of the intricacies of drawing up lines, and I'm just sort of surprised. And I wanted to understand what happens when you do, and lose some population, but not a lot. And in our district, and the impact it will have on the elections of these entry level types of offices, elected offices. So I appreciate the work that is being done, and I'll take my answer over the air. Thank you.
Well, first off, I just want to say thank you for being so excited about it. It makes us makes us all more excited. And then first off, I'll just say, to your question about what happens for those who may not feel comfortable submitting testimony, via the online tool, and will there be help? There are going to be other options. One is we will have a paper tool that is available for download if you, if you feel comfortable, downloading from our website, the redrawthelineca.org. If you want to download the paper communities of interest tool from our website, you could do that, and then you could download it, print it, give it out to anybody who might not feel comfortable. Another alternative is when we start the public hearings, we will be doing most likely at least a combination of Zoom. We're also discussing whether or not we would do in-person meetings, but whichever method is something that's comfortable. They could, you and others that who would prefer to use non-electronic means, you could actually draw it on the paper tool. You could also make public testimony. You could also send a letter describing what you believe is your community of interest. You don't have to use the electronic tool. And so with that, I think I just want to say also too, I'm glad that you're excited, because there's a lot that's going to be, be riding on your input. And so I hope that I answered all your questions, but we really do thank you. Again, with the redistricting access centers, that were some of the locations where you could go to for help. Right now, we don't know. It's really going to be dependent on what's going to happen with COVID, but the statewide database, who's our partner in this, is looking to see about, or at least is hoping to open up those redistricting access centers where you can go in, someone can help you draw the maps electronically, but for right now, it's all being done through the online or phone calls to the communities of interest tool helpline.
Mm-hmm. I want to add in, Commissioner Akutagawa, because the caller also said that they were not previously very familiar with redistricting and line drawing maps, et cetera. So of course, we're super excited, caller. I know you've had to drop off, but you're listening over the air. Super excited that you did dial in, and wanting you to encourage you for the others that's working on the school board, other people that it's within your sphere of influence. Please encourage them to also watch the redistricting basic presentation, so that the more I've been able to present, the more people talk about it, the more comfortable you become with the process. So as was mentioned earlier, there will be a video presentation of today. You'll be able to download this. And I just want to encourage thank you for participating, and encourage that you tell others, because of course we want to hear from as many Californians as possible throughout this process.
Yeah, and in addition, I'll add that Commissioners Yee and Toledo are the commissioners. Commissioner Yee is the chair for the Bay Area Region Outreach Zone. And you can tune in to the rest of this meeting that begins at 4 o'clock, where we are going to spend the following 3 hours talking about proposed approach to collecting public input, approaches to collecting public input. So that should provide some additional clarity. Thanks.
And Commissioner Fornaciari, for all of the public that's listening, we are also in the process of hiring staff that's going to assist with supporting with education and outreach in the field. So if you're someone that says, oh, great, but I know all about redistricting and about outreach and have expertise in that, I encourage you to check out our website and apply for some of those jobs as well. We're looking for you.
Thanks, Trina. Next caller.
The floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Howard Wolinsky, Welinsky from Southern California. My question is, will you make reference to the existing lines that were drawn 10 years ago from the prior independent commission, or do you draw these lines as though those lines don't exist?
Excellent question. And the shorter answer is we haven't decided yet. That's a question that's come up a number of times, and the commission needs to address the approach we're going to take when we begin to draw lines. So we don't know, but we're definitely going to consider that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to remind everyone in the queue, if you would like to comment, to press *9 to raise your hand, indicating you wish to comment. We do still have someone with their hand raised. I was just reminding those behind them. And the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. My name is Michael Feinstein, Michael, and then Feinstein. I'm a former mayor and city council member in Santa Monica, a co-founder of the Green Party of California. And two brief questions. I didn't understand before about the timeline in terms of drawing the final maps. It seems that that's occurring during the candidate filing period, which is the end of December until beginning of March. So if we could have clarity about that. But the main thing I wanted to ask is, in the UK and Canada, they give names to their districts. So that gives voters a better opportunity to identify with their districts. And does this law provide the opportunity for the commission to do so? And if not, could it be done by legislation, or would it have to occur by initiative? Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Former Mayor Feinstein, we appreciate your call for calling in. Those lines, the filing period, yes, we are watching that very closely. We do know the timeline that was presented in the presentation a little bit earlier today actually pushes right up against that. So until we actually have the material, we know the legacy data is scheduled to be released. We're looking for that by the end of the month. And then that's going to take a couple of weeks for us to be able to translate it and actually be able to use it. We understand that it may impact the filing dates. Those may have to be adjusted. The legislature is watching very closely to make those determinations. And as soon as they do, that information will either come out in one of our public hearings or it will be posted on our website. But we don't have any definitive answer on that yet. We just know that we're looking, just like you are, at how close all of that is happening. And even primary dates, to have any of that changed or shifted, all of that would be the legislature that would have to take care of that.
And then the second question?
So, yeah, we've not talked yet about renaming our districts. We will have to look at what those laws are and how it is accommodated. And you said in Canada, and what was the other place?
Canada and the United Kingdom both give names, and I'm happy to send follow-up material to the email address on your website about their processes.
We would love to look at it. We would love to look at it.
Great, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this and serving the public.
So you're welcome, and thank you for your service. Currently, the law says we're required to number the districts sequentially, starting at the northern border of the state in the southerly direction. So we're required to number them, and that's how. As far as whether it needs legislation or an initiative to name, I don't know, but it's really an interesting.
It's interesting,
question.
huh?
I love this question.
Do you think that the legislative analyst office would have an opinion on whether you could say District 1 / the big forest, or whatever it is?
Well, I'm intrigued by the question, which is why I am glad that you're going to send it through for the full commission to take a look at, because certainly I'd like to see how it's currently done, and we can certainly lift that up. I think that's an engaging way to get people to participate and understand the maps as they're being drawn, the specific area, even more so than a number. So thank you for that information, and I'm eagerly looking forward to receiving it.
You're welcome. And by the way, I was the first caller, and it didn't work when I hit *6 at the beginning. And I actually am in the city of Oaxaca in Mexico, but I still wanted to reach back to all of you and support your work. So I called from here.
Thank you. Thank you. We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
It's good to know it works internationally. That's what I'm talking about. We do not have anybody else with their hand raised, so I would like to remind callers, if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, please press *9 to raise your hand indicating you wish to comment. Otherwise, commissioners, the floor is yours. There is no hands at this time.
Okay. Well, at this point, we'd be up against a break anyway, if we were going to carry on with callers and questions. But since we don't have any at this point, I'm going to wrap this up. Let me find my place here. Okay, let's see. I want to thank everyone for joining us in our Redistricting Basics presentation. I don't know about my fellow commissioners, but I will say that I'm really pleased with the questions that we've had and the interaction that we've had. This has worked out well. Well, I thanks Trina and Linda for your great job working on this. I also want to take a minute to thank the entire outreach, communication, and videography staff for helping put this presentation together. It was a lot of work, and I especially want to give kudos to Marcy Kaplan for her leadership and hard work in getting us organized and getting this off the ground. So in closing, on my end, please be sure to visit our website, wedrawthelinesca.org. And join us for future commission meetings. As I said earlier, we have our public input design committee meeting beginning at 4, the rest of the meeting beginning at 4. April 26th, we have a live Spanish redistricting basics presentation. And I don't know, Linda or Trina, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just want to say how incredibly grateful I am for the Californians that are early participating in the process, because you don't have to wait. You can start submitting right now on that community of interest tool, or simply by following any of the other prompts that was lifted up today. So I'm grateful for that. I'm excited to receive and hear from every one of you. Yes, we're prepared for that. And I'd like to thank you, Neil and Linda, both for just allowing me to share space in this manner with the two of you today. This has and continues to be a joy.
You, Neil. Thank you, Trina. I just want to echo what, Commissioner Turner, what you just also said too. I mean, it is just a joy being able to work with the both of you, as well as the other 13 members of the commission. If for anybody who is wondering, we do like each other. I think we're all getting along quite well, and it's been really part of one of the best parts of the process is getting to know each other. I just want to say for everybody who's joined us today, it's just an honor to be able to serve on this commission and to really do this important work. And I want to just thank all of you who have joined us, make time, to be with us today, to listen and to really to learn. And I want to encourage you to take what we talked about today and encourage others to also get engaged and to learn more about this whole process, because as it was said, the more input we could get, the better. Maybe I'll add a little bit of a, excuse me, a competitive edge to this. And I was told that in 2010, there were 20,000 pieces of public input sent and shared to the commission. So I want to put out a challenge to all of our fellow Californians. Let's break that record. Let's not just double it to 40,000. Let's go to 3, 4, 5 times that number. The more
Why not?
Why not, right? The more we can get from all of you, the better. We are prepared. We are ready to hear from all of you. And again, I just want to say thank you. And Neil and Trina, it's been, again, a great pleasure. I feel like, doing more of this just gets me more excited for what we're doing and makes me want to go out and talk to more people about why redistricting is so important. So thank you all.
All right. Well, thank you both. This has been great. So I'm going to call this meeting in recess until 4 p.m. So thank you both.